What is the worst thing you've done on a date? Got way too drunk, slipped and cracked my head open on his sink. Had no idea how bad I was hurt until I walked back into the party and everyone goggled at me in shock because I was covered in blood from where my eyebrow piercing had been ripped out. Then he called his dad over to come stitch me up, his dad being a doctor. So that was a nice first meeting of my new boyfriend's parent. I remember thinking this guy's never going to ask me out again, but he did, and we dated for 4 years. 20 plus years later we are still friends. So I guess it worked out okay in the end. Went on a double date, but didn't bring a date. Effectively made myself the third wheel. After the date, went back to his place. Started kissing and getting really into it when I tasted blood, pulled back and told him he was bleeding because it was all over his mouth. He opens his eyes and makes me aware of that it was indeed actually gushing from my nose. So we both had blood from my nose and our mouths. Mood was quickly killed and never revived. Good 1 hour in on my date, we are at a restaurant, got our food and happily consuming it. I feel a sneeze coming. I'm thinking this, remember how some people can hold it off by pincing their nose? Yes, let's try that. Can't be rude, right? Can't sneeze on the food either. Will avoid sneezing like a hippo in front of my date like I usually do. It was painful. Sound that came out was weird and attracted not only my date, but more unwanted attention. All the mucus was still stuck in my nose and mouth. I couldn't speak or swallow, so I decided to go for double thumbs up all around. Stuff in my nose started leaking. Many napkins were sacrificed shortly after. Middle of the date, this girl told me she liked to skateboard. I happened to have a skateboard in my trunk and I asked her if she wanted to skate a bit, but she said she actually can't skate. I made her watch me do kickflips and stuff for like half an hour until she started crying about how she missed her ex-boyfriend. I had a cyst the size of a golf ball on my butt pop, and I bled all over his car on the way to the movies. Ruined my incredibly cute dress too. I was too embarrassed and in too much pain to do anything but like sob. Not fun. He wiped my rear on the first date. I guess it's not the worst thing I've specifically done, but definitely the worst thing that my body has done to me. Out to dinner, my stomach is feeling pretty upset, but the food is amazing and expensive, so I try to tough it out. My body, however, was not in the mood to tough it out whatsoever. I politely excused myself to the bathroom and loudly unleashed the most ungodly amount of liquid poop. To make matters worse, I had unexpectedly started my period as well. Since I was wearing a dress, there wasn't much fabric to contain the blood, so my upper thighs were a bloody mess, as was the toilet that I just unleashed demonic horror upon. Somehow my dress was unharmed, and I managed to evacuate my bowels and clean up in under 10 minutes, so my date was none the wiser. Still annoyed at my body for betraying me like that at my favorite fancy restaurant though. Locked his keys in the car on our second date, lol. I went to his car to get my wallet, which I had left in the glove compartment. Got my wallet, left the keys, locked the door. Took 2 hours to Uber to his place to get the spare. Third date, we went mini golfing. This was after I worked a 10-hour shift. I didn't know it would be another 2 hours of standing non-stop, so I took off my shoes. He did not look pleased, but I was near tears, my feet hurt so bad. Still waiting on a fourth date, lol. Forgot her name. Never even got to the date. I was chatting with this girl online for a few days when we decided to meet up. I head on over to the mall where we were meeting, and there she was sitting on a bench right by the store we decided to meet at. But I couldn't remember her name. She had mentioned it to me when we first started chatting, but I just couldn't remember it. So I walk by the bench and never even stop. She looked at me and smiled and I walked on by. This was in 1999 and neither of us had a cell phone, so she emailed me and asked why I didn't stop and talk. I told her that my vehicle broke down and that guy wasn't me. She thought I had a doppelganger running around. I went on a blind date with my boy. Do him a favor. He was interested in the girl he invited, so I was tagged with her friend, and we were supposed to meet at the theater. They were already there when I came, and I started walking towards them when I see the person that's supposed to be my date take a giant sneeze into her hands, then rubs them together. Immediately started walking away and left. Crazy part is that they saw me leave, so they thought I was trying to say the girl was ugly and I was too good for her. Whatever. I'm not that petty, but I'm petty enough not to want to be next to snot hands. When I was 19 I completely fell for a young lady at a party. We chatted a great part of the night and ended of a high note of a kiss. 2 or 3 days later we arranged to meet for a coffee/drink and dessert at a nice cafe downtown. I was done up pretty tight about it being strange or awkward. In my young uncertainty I decided I would do my best to make a great entrance and sweep her off her feet. Outside the cafe I gathered myself up and walked into the busy cafe. I saw her sitting the corner of the room with her back to the door. With all the confidence I could muster I walked up behind her, placed my foot behind the leg of her chair and leaned it back and gave her the most romantic kiss I could muster. As I slowly pulled away I found myself looking into the eyes of a complete stranger. The girl I was there to meet was a few tables over and witnessed the whole event.